and access to quality references in low digitized environments. And when I prepared the topic, so first no, I will introduce myself to people that you were not all here before, right?
Not all.
No. So I'm an English, German to French translator. I'm also a LSP. I'm based in Spain, Barcelona, and I'm also half based in Algeria. Wow. And I'm French. Originating from Strasbourg. And I'm replacing my colleague Lina, which is from Algeria, and that should have come, but unfortunately she couldn't make it, so I'm taking over the topic. And this topic is about our experience in Algeria, but when I went to this conference, I discovered that you guys in Africa have the same kind of issues about corpus. So let's talk about it. So I will first of all present the Algerian context, and as we are not so many people, I mean, we can interact easier regarding your own context. So Algeria is a bilingual nation regarding written content. Arabic and French by heritage, and by heritage I mean colonization, of course, by legal system tradition. So this history brought bilingual legislation, which is inspired by French law. For example, the Algerian civil code is a mimicking of the French one. So it's civilian and it's not common law. Tamazight is also an Algerian official language. It's the language spoken by people living in Kabylie. The official language of the country is Arabic. However, the Algerian legislation is still bilingual, so you will still find bilingual websites. For example, Journal Officiel is written in French and in Arabic. However, the country remains under-digitized regarding resources. So, and it's not something just common to Algeria, it's something common to Arabic countries. So I don't know the reason, but we have to deal with it. So there is an official translators community and no will to share. So it's what we mentioned earlier. So official translators, and I'm not ashamed at all to say it, I mean, are a protected profession like lawyers. So they got their stamp from the Ministry of Justice. And this is a good thing at the beginning, because the idea is to have only people that are supposed to be skilled. But the second thing is that it's like a jail for them, because they are not aware of the international standards. So I don't know how guys it's in your country, but for example, they are not aware at all of CAD tools, or very few of them, and neither of the process of translating, editing, quality control. Usually, it's the main translator of the office that is giving the translation to internships, and he is proofreading it or not. So, and this is a real problem. So when we started as a LSP in Algeria, it was really complicated for us because we were the first LSP, so-called LSP. We had on the one side the official translators community, on the other side the freelancers, which is in reality the undeclared people. So that brings other issues. I mean, when you are not registered, if you're working with European companies, I mean, it means money laundering, financing of terrorism. There is no other word to say. So here is the context. And the source of corpus, you have the official text online. So you have, for example, a French version of the civil code online, and you have the equivalent in Arabic. There is also something I need to mention. Algeria went through a process of Arabization. That meant that from French speaking official language, they went to Arabic official language. So that meant all the new children that went to school had to learn Arabic as a first language. So that introduced some issues, because I mean, you cannot say people from one day to the next you change language. So today we have an issue about command of the language. You have some people, French translators, I mean, they're not even writing French properly, but they are translators. The same for Arabic. So that's really complicated, because we are in an under-digitized environment, so we are lacking resources for Arabic, and the standards are not as high as overseas, because the country is also closed. So that's also complicated. For example, the currency is not freely convertible, so that brings a lot of issues with it. It's not something just that is economic. You know, it broadens to the whole translation industry. So what we did, we had to start somewhere because we didn't have any purpose. So we did alignments. We aligned the whole legislation because we could have access to Arabic version of civil code, family code, and all that stuff, and the equivalent in French. So we downloaded the PDF and we did alignments. So we have at least the legal corpus, so we are at least sure of it. And of course, for Arabic, we don't have yet a neural machine translation. Sistra is doing Arabic to English and English to Arabic, but not Arabic to French. So we have Google Translate is doing it, but I mean quality is Google-like. So sources do exist and can be easily leveraged. I mean, you need to do this. I mean, you need to find the resources and start somewhere, as I said. So here I put the link of Journal Officiel. So here you have the Arabic version. Here you have the French one. Here you have the commerce code, the same civil code. One of the issues we are facing is we are not in a real open data environment. So you have companies that appeared that try to find solutions to it by providing subscription to access the law. Because the law, even if it's online, it's not, sometimes you don't have the updated version of it. So you are looking for the last Loi de Finance, which is a financial law of the year, and you only find the one of 2016. The example is wrong, but just to provide you an overview of how it's working. So they provide, for example, subscription, but to me, as a European who grew up in EURLEX, which is a European directive code where you have all the legislation in 27 languages online for free, PDF, TMX. I mean, to me, it's something that shouldn't even exist because we're in an open data environment. So these companies, I mean, they did something clever because they tried to take advantage of the gap of the market, and that's really great because, as I said before, I don't know if you were here, but I said in Africa, usually what is done, people always say we need to, you know, to come over the delay, we have the gap, we have to fill in the gap. But in Algeria, there is a guy, I went to a cocktail evening, and he was saying this: in Africa we need to reinvent things. We don't have to mimic what has been done elsewhere, and it's really what I discovered here in Africa. You know, you guys invent concrete and pragmatic solutions for concrete problems. I mean, you don't have such a big process we may have in Europe. A very concrete example is about 5G network. I mean, in Europe we went through 2G, 3G, 4G. And we are arriving to 5G. In Africa, I mean, you know the time lapse you had between 2 and 4G, like this. So, and for example, for many digital solutions, you use already mobile communication, whereas in Europe we went through banking. It was banking environments that put this forward. So, to me, Africa is a very agile society because you have a concrete problem. You find the issue. When you see the digital transformation of Rwanda, Uganda, I mean, that's amazing. Even when I landed here in Tanzania, I was really surprised about the SIM card. I just had to touch with my finger. I was thinking, in Europe, I mean, I don't have to go through a big process to buy a SIM card. It's not, my digit doesn't help me, so that's quite funny. So this is the first thing, no real open data environment. Biases, no proper updates, and inconsistent organizations. You have, let's say, 5 websites for commercial code. So which one do you use? The one of the ministry or the one of the government? It's really complicated to figure out. So, I don't think you see it well, but you should recognize studio environments. So here, it's alignment. Do you use studio? Or do you know of it? Yeah. Okay. What we did, you can maybe see it here. we downloaded the PDF, we converted it to Word, we checked the layout, we did the same for French, and we aligned. So it took time, of course, because to align the whole legislation of a country takes a couple of months. So the whole team was working on it as an Arabic team. So we aligned the 15 codes, and so what it means, we digitalized it. Because now, I mean, we can, for example, do a lingual version of it, and this can be done in bilingual variants. Of course, we are lucky in Algeria because it's bilingual. When you don't have this luck, I mean, it's more complicated, but I'm sure you can find solutions, and we'll try to figure out. So, we'll go back to definitions about corpus. Corpus needs first of all to be defined. So you have different kind of corpus. You have monolingual corpus, you have bilingual corpus, which is also known as parallel corpus. And Lina, that worked with me at the presentation, she made me aware of something very important. She told me in Arabic it's very, very important to have a monolingual corpus. Maybe in other languages we're less conscious about it. Because what is monolingual corpus doing? Monolingual corpus is giving you co-occurrences. You know, for example, for phrasal verbs, give up, give in, give out. I mean, you need to have these co-occurrences to enrich your style. So monolingual corpus is very, very important. Bilingual corpus, of course, it helps also to translate, but monolingual corpus is made for target language, so that your style is good enough, is proper to the standards of your customers or to the content you have to translate. So I picked up some definitions from internet. So a corpus is a collection of text used for linguistic analysis, usually stored in an electronic database so that data can be accessed easily by means of a computer. Such corpora generally comprise hundreds of thousands to billions of words and are not made up of the linguists or native speakers' invented examples, but based on authentic, naturally occurring spoken or written usage. It's what Lingui basically is doing for a bilingual or parallel corpus. The majority of present-day corpora are balanced or systematic. This means that the texts are collected or compiled according to specific principles, such as different genres, registers, or style of a language. Why do I mention this? Because this is the basis of neural machine translation that is coming tomorrow or tomorrow plus I don't know when. After tomorrow, but it's coming, and we have all interest in working in it because what it helps to do is the more people speak properly a language, the better the translation will be. So we will all gain from it. So to sum it up, a corpus is a systematic, computerized collection of authentic language used for linguistic analysis. I could have not mentioned computerized, but I think we are far enough, in the industry to be able to speak about this way. I made also the distinction between monolingual or parallel or multilingual corpus. So monolingual corpus is the most frequent type of corpus. It contains text in one language only. The corpus is usually tagged for parts of speech and is used by a wide range of users for various tasks, from highly practical ones, for example, checking the correct usage of a word or looking up the most natural word combinations, to scientific use, identifying frequent patterns or new trends in language. Sketch Engine concerns hundreds of monolingual corpora in dozens of languages. This is a website I discovered when I prepared the presentation, and I really encourage you to have a look at this website, Sketch Engine, and I will give you other tools so that you will be able to see. Of course, you have dictionaries. But dictionaries, the purpose is not to give you co-occurrences. Purpose is to give you a definition. So you have to think what's the purpose of the tool. And a parallel corpus consists of two monolingual corpora. One corpus is a translation of the other. For example, a novel and its translation, or a translation memory of a CAT tool, could be used to build a parallel corpus. The example I give with the alignment of the Algerian law is a parallel corpus. So both languages need to be aligned. That means corresponding segments, usually sentences or paragraphs, need to be matched. The user can then search for all examples of a word or phrase in one language, and the results will be displayed together with the corresponding sentences in the other language. The user can then observe how the search word or phrase is translated. And here's what we mentioned before. This is Antidote. So, you know maybe Antidote? Yeah. So Antidote is, first of all, a dictionary. It gives you a definition. Then it provides you the synonyms of the word. Then the antonyms, which means the contrary, co-occurrences, so the words that are always surrounding this word, champ lexical, which is a lexical, the lexical universe. Then you have conjugation. Here in this case it's a common word, so it's not the case. And also quotes. And sometimes you have some hints about etymology. So this is for French. Unfortunately, this doesn't exist for Arabic. But, I mean, the more we build resources, I mean, there will be one guy one day that is going to say, I'm going to make this as a software. So I would like to know this guy. If you know him, you call me. It will help us a lot. So I gave this example for French because it exists, but I'm sure in new languages it exists also. Maybe in a more empirical way than this one, but you know, it's what I said before, you have to start somewhere, if nobody started before. And here you have the examples of co-occurrences. Usually the word corpus is used with corpus de texte, corpus de connaissance, corpus d'œuvre, corpus de règles, so rules of corpus. It gives you an idea of which context it is. Hélène gave an example yesterday about words you use, for example, in medical context, you wouldn't use in legal context. This kind of tools will help you on this because it will tell you when it is used. You have some words that are forbidden in one context but not in another. You have some words that have a meaning in one context and a completely different in another one. So why are we talking about this? Corpus, it's not only made, you know, to have a definition or an understanding. We can go further. It's also crucial to linguistic correction and style diversity. The more references you have, for example, phrasal verbs are a very good example. When we started to learn English, we had some basic words, do, make, and when you progress, you introduce phrasal verbs. You know, give up is a more, there is more style in using these words than using another one. So make or do is the same. Make or do is very important. And in Arabic it's the same. Usually when we do some tests to translators, the common issue we have, so I'm not able to evaluate the test, but what Lina usually tells me is that the style is too poor because they use the word, the equivalent of make or do in Arabic, which shows the style is very, very poor. It's like they would say, it's a very common example. They always say, j'ai fait un retard. In English, it would say, I did a delay. In French, we do not say j'ai fait un retard. J'ai du retard. I'm late. But you wouldn't say I did late or something like this. So this is an example of poor style command. And a corpora is helping you to develop such kind of skills. You can also develop these skills by reading in your target language, but you know, you have several strategies to complete. So it improves specific terminology, collocation, co-occurrences, and in context illustration, in a different context than dictionaries, because dictionaries, as I mentioned, is a concrete, you have usually only one example because the dictionary is not its purpose to give you, you know, the widespread definitions. You have it, for example, still for the phrasal verbs. I don't know if you're using such kind of books, but I have one. I think it's a Collins one, and it's giving me a lot of examples of context where meaning is changing even with the same preposition, so that's quite funny. It also serves fluency and idiomatic style. It's the example I gave with j'ai fait du retard. Or there is another one, je reçois mon anniversaire. I have my birthday. French we say you use the verb avoir, which is to have, and sometimes I've heard je reçois mon anniversaire, which literally is I will get my birthday, which is wrong. So it's really made for idiomatic style, and it serves the same objective as translation memories, which is consistency. You always use the same collocation in a specific context. So the question is the word specific to a context, an industry, different meaning in a technical general context. This is the question you have to ask yourself. Is it specific to a geographic area or a semantic prosody, for example? The word, I don't know if yeah, I will give you an example. Still back to Algeria, when I went to the airport a couple of weeks ago, the guy said to me, bon courage, when I went to take the plane. Which means, I have to be brave. I understood it as, something is going to happen to me. And I couldn't listen to it anymore. I was asking, why are you saying this to me? Is something to happen to me? Is something going to happen to me? And then he didn't understand. So I was telling him, usually in French, we only use this when something bad is happening to you. I would say bonne continuation, good luck, like bon courage. So, and I asked one of my friends, I said, is this a literal translation from Arabic? And he told me, no, probably not. It may be related to African context. And he developed. He said, usually in Africa, things are more complicated. If you take the plane, many more things can happen to you because of time. The way time is perceived. We don't have the same perception. If I tell you I'm coming later, what does later mean? I'm German style, so if I tell you I'm here at 2, I will be here at 2, even 10 minutes before. But in Algeria, how many times did I have friends that told me I'm here at 2, at 4 you were still expecting them, and they said I'm coming. Okay, when? Today, tomorrow, next week? So you have to know which geographic area you are talking.
I think that it is like in French, when in the Ivorian context, we say je demande la route. When you want to say je vais prendre congé, je demande la route. Donc the French man will say je demande la route. What? There is something wrong. When you ask me, I'm asking the way.
You also have prendre attache avec quelqu'un. I heard it only in Algeria, and I liked it, so I used it once in a French context. And the person I was writing to us, she said to me, we don't say this in France. But as I was really exposed a lot to Algerian context, I started to use it, and it's something that's not used, and I didn't find it in the dictionary. Maybe I didn't check properly, I should have checked in all the dictionaries, because it has an origin, but we were talking about this before, when we have some applications from African translators, usually the style, the way they are talking French is a more old-fashioned one, because usually it's also related to history, and it's a more, it's not very stylish, it's too much. A French person wouldn't express itself like this, it's very bonjour madame, it's very, very formal, and today it's more easygoing. I wouldn't say I would write salut, comment ça va, but I mean, I wouldn't make it, so, exactly. So you have to know the audience and the context. So, we have strategies to overcome, these issues as we don't have enough corpus, so you have to be proactive and to take action. So you can do proactive or reactive alignments. I'm going to repeat what I said in previous presentation, but with alignments, I gave before an example about the General Protection Directive. I had many translations from German to French and from English to French, and I decided to align. It was about 40 pages, and it was very useful because when I got the translation ahead, I could see there were many articles that were a complete mimicking of the directive. So this was a reactive alignment because I was exposed to that content. But you can also do proactive alignments. Let's say you are translating for legal industry. You know, for example, you are translating sentences or a judgment about divorces. What you could do, for example, is you go and visit the family code, because there will be for sure something. And even if your country is not bilingual, maybe you're not a lawyer, so you can go and check the provisions in a specific article of a law that is published, because you will know the way things are said. I will give you a concrete example for this also. I didn't know about the Algerian Civil Code, so when we started to align, so I had to read it, and I was really shocked about one word. I saw the word étranger, which is a foreigner. To me, it was, in France it has become very politically incorrect to say this. And we would have said un ressortissant étranger, which is a political way, correct way of saying it. And I said it to one of my friends, who is a lawyer, and I asked him, is this not an updated version of it? Because I thought, it was outdated. And he told me, no, it's the right one. Of course, it dates back to I don't know when, but this is a concrete example. If I would have translated, I would have had the right word, because out of context. So even if I don't agree, even if the language evolved, if I have to translate something legal, it has to be mimicking the official source. So you can do proactive or reactive alignments. We also started to do something, we scanned books. So this may seem very complicated, but it's really easy. You can invest in scanner for books which are really small, about 300 or 300 euros. You scan them, and the tool is converting it through OCR, so character recognition. And what it helps to do is it brings the file to be editable, and you can research in it, because usually we don't want to read the whole book. I mean, we're not interested in this. We want just to have a specific word relating to the sentence we are translating. So you can, for example, we did it in the team. You can, for example, scan a book of 80 pages in about 15 minutes. So of course you don't scan the whole world of books, but if you have a bilingual book or something that is relevant to the content you are usually translating, you can do it. We did it, for example, for English law. I mean, I have a lot of legal stuff to translate, and I used all the time to look up in internet. Since we do this, I mean, I spend time, because now I can look up with the research function of Adobe Acrobat, for example, because it's researchable. So what it shows you is you need to think out of this box. I mean, the box is the way it is. You cannot change the box. The box is still a box and will never be a cycle. So you have to think out of the box from the inside. It's what I said in the first communication. So you have also to try to be collaborative. And for example, if you use My Memory in Studio, My Memory is a neural machine tool of SDL. It's not quite good, but for example, you activate it. You may not take the content from it, but you may activate the box of updating it, which means the whole community using it will benefit from it. So if you're translating French to Arabic or reverse, you can do this. Of course, you will sometimes find crap, but the more you do it, better will be the content. And I don't really think that crap translators will survive a long time. So you will maybe have a period of time where this will happen, but in the end, content will be better. And I would also recommend you to try to get involved in pooling initiative. What I mean by pooling initiative is, let's say you start a glossary, your colleague is adding some words, and you improve it together, and you publish it. I saw a lot of groups on Facebook regarding Arabic terminology. One guy is asking, how would you translate this? The other one is replying. If you do, for example, an Excel glossary, which is something very easy to do, I mean, you share these resources, you already have this on prose. and it's the only way to develop things, because that's the basis of any dictionary. So I don't know how Arabic dictionaries have been built, but from the research I did for this presentation, I saw that many Arabic dictionaries are old. You have only one or two, I think, for modern Arabic. So when you see how many dictionaries you have for other languages, it's quite frightening to see the difference. So, and it's just because these environments have been under-digitized. So the people didn't have the idea to do it because they didn't have the tool. But now with internet, the widespread use of technology, and especially the pace at which Africa is evolving, I think you're going to have it tomorrow, and not tomorrow after tomorrow. It's going to be very quick here. So, and the last thing is sharing is caring. I really like to say this because it's what the industry is lacking so far, and not only in the Arabic world or in the digitized world. In France, I can see it. It's what I said to you before, is people are not sharing enough, or they're only sharing to the people they like. But the more you share, the more you democratize knowledge. So when you go to school, basically it's sharing knowledge of someone else. So I think you have to think about this, and not to perceive your industry as, if you give this to your colleague, he will take the work away from you. And to make a parallel with it, in Algeria, as I said, we are the only LSP. We have official translators, we have freelancers. When we started, nobody liked us, and we had to talk with everybody, because we had to be friends with everybody, and we had to be in the middle, to move forward. And official translators don't like us because they thought we would take their own market, the one they like to have and didn't want to share. You have, for example, a lot of teachers in universities, because they are official translators. Usually, the way they teach is influenced by the way they want the market to be tomorrow. So they're teaching in a certain way so that they don't take advantage of it. And this is something I discovered in Africa. I was really shocked about it. And when I say Africa, I include Algeria also. Sometimes they're not willing, the next generation takes, enters the same market. So they are taking, they're keeping everything secret. I will give you a very concrete example. I've been training an official translator in Algeria, which is in the region of Tizi Ouzou, and she told me, please don't share on LinkedIn or anywhere, don't say you sold us SDL license. I was thinking, why? And she said, I don't want them to be jealous. I was, jealous. Is this possible? And she didn't. In the end, it was not that. The issue was not that, but I didn't want, to offend her or anything. It was just because she didn't want to share. She got access to something she thought wonderful, and she didn't want competition know about it. But I really don't think this is the way it should be. The more you share, the more, the whole industry is going to benefit from it. Today, we are lacking of tools because of this behavior. So if we don't change, in 10 years we still be here at the conference saying we don't have enough resources. So I really encourage you to share, and you have the value added, so nobody will take it from you. So if you share, there is a saying from Jefferson that says, I don't know the quote exactly in English, but he says, if I share my light with you, we still have the light. We share it, If I give something to you, I don't lose anything. We benefited from it, both of us. Yes. So you have to have this mindset, I think.
Exactly, this is what you are doing, like teaching, for example, your employees, and that you will be afraid that they will take over your work. Are they taking over your work?
I will give you a concrete example about this. Lina, which was my employee in Alger, I really encouraged her to go to France because I thought she would have better opportunities. At that time, she wasn't quite sure what to do. Stay in Algeria, go to France. And I had a lot of friends close to me that said to me, you don't think she is going to take your customers over? I said, my customer, I am pain in the ass. Who would like to have them? Please, I'm the only one to, to stand them. And she started to work as a freelance. She went through the whole process, and we're still working as a team. And the way we are behaving, among the team, I may be wrong, but she doesn't want to, betray me or to cheat, or because the relationship we built in a relationship, if you think your husband is gonna cheat on you, it will eventually happen, or you're fucking up the relationship because you will always come up with this. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's not the right way to do. So, and to complete, it's not working anymore.
It's working.
Oh, okay. So, we need today to start. Exactly. Through direct action, through collective involvement, and I think this is not only meant for translation. I think you can think about many topics or subjects where you can have this approach. So, and we can see it, with all these initiatives like Airbnb and all that stuff. I mean, even if that's not good for everything, we see there is a collective tendency a collective trend to move this way, so to do things collectively. Maybe we may be wrong when we start because there will be some pitfalls, but in the end, we will try to find solutions. It's like capitalism. I mean, that's not good for everybody, but after the crisis, we found solutions. These solutions are maybe not perfect, but we move forward, so I think that's important. So we move from translation memories to translation term-based. So, which is more specific. You do glossaries for, let's say you have an Excel glossary, you convert it to multi-term or the equivalent for MemoCure. Then you do alignment. Then we will be able to move to statistical models. And then finally, eventually we will come to neural tools as we had for European languages, because that's the way that and why did it work better for European languages? Because there was also a political integration with the European Union. So we can see the movement, how it went, French, German, and English as the best covered languages because they were at the heart of European reconstruction. So I think Africa has this big problem. You have big languages like Swahili, which is covering large areas. So I think you have really this capability to do this, but you need to work together. That's the only way to do it. So even if you don't like colleagues, I mean, you have to make the relationship work.
It's a teamwork.
Exactly. And for example, when we see this association, I mean, that came out of nothing. And you see today we are 20 nationalities who are here. So it's easy. In 2 years, I mean, that's incredible. So when you are willing to do collective things, I mean, you can do great things. And what I wanted to conclude with is we shall tend to neural tools. Even if in Europe, you have many people that are saying neural machine translation is killing the industry. It's what I said before. You're killing yourself if you don't, go into this trend. So, because what this will have as a consequence, the whole industry will benefit from its upgrade of the corpora, because you will know how to translate this word, but your colleague also. And so when you will be trying to explain a concept, you will have enough words to explain it. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know, I couldn't remember who said this, but translation is about bringing two worlds to be able to communicate. Otherwise, without translation, we would be living on two mountains and watching each other without being able to understand each other. So, and this will also contribute to a better widespread of the language. And in your case, it will also contribute to a better recognition, because on the first, the keynote speaker, she was saying something about your language being recognized in institutions. For example, if Swahili would be an official language of the African Union, I mean, the whole world would know about Swahili.
Actually, it is like on the side, like, and like, you were telling me about that it is signed by the African Union that the Swahili is becoming official language. Yeah.
And this is bringing recognition, because when you're recognized, this is the first door to widespread it. So, and it's also, if you don't like something, if you don't talk about it, who will know? I mean,
I learned yesterday.
I didn't know. I did a podcast on LinkedIn. I didn't know anything about Swahili. I didn't know the difference between Swahili and Kiswahili. I was thinking, I misunderstood it, and when I checked, okay. Then a whole world opened to me. I discovered there are two kinds of languages: the languages, of communication, the languages spoken in one country. If I wouldn't have come here, I wouldn't have had this exposure to this. So, raising standards, because the outcome. So, if we don't do this, we will have cultural misunderstanding, misconception. But if we go to this trend, we will reduce them. We will avoid biases due to history, politicals, and dialects. So the example I gave you before with étranger, foreigner. This has a link with history. You know, in France, for example, you wouldn't say anymore nègre, which is very bad. I mean, you can say, but 20 years ago, nobody would have thought, you know, about it's all this stuff about, you know, the movement Me Too. Yeah. I mean, the same. 5 years ago, you know, you go in the metro, something is talking to you badly, you wouldn't even reply because it's normal. Today, we are aware of this, and so we are acting because we are aware of it. So we are at the same point where we have more reliable sources, and also, and I think that's something very important in all the digitized environment, we will be able to have higher global standards for the whole industry because you will have more professionalization, more structuration. We won't even debate anymore about CAD tools. I mean, CAD tools will be like, do you use a computer? And it should come to that point. When you ask someone, how do you do to have a consistent terminology? And when the person is not able to reply, and when it's telling you, I write it down, I'm really impressed because if I have 1,000 words, I mean, I can't remember. I'm only a human being, so machines are made to help us and not to take us over. So I know there is actually this whole debate about artificial intelligence, but you have to remember that the key word is intelligence, and it's human people that are building it. So I mean, artificial intelligence tomorrow is not going to be a real person. So I think you have to come back to basics. And last slide is staying on top. So how can we do this? Events like this one, we should have more. Get the official translators, so-called freelancers, together. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you are official translators or if you are not translating for official institution. If you are a translator, if you are skilled, if you have recognition from your customers, you need to stand up. And final words is educate, educate, and educate. I mean, there is no other ways to widespread knowledge and to get heard. You need to speak up. If you have ideas, and I mean, that's general, that's not only for this specific topic. I mean, if you want to get the light on something, you need to be in the light, otherwise it's not possible. Instagram is really doing well, right, about this, because they understood it. You're nobody, but you speak about something, you are able to get the spotlight. So, and to conclude this, I wanted to ask you if you had some ideas about things we could do, for example, to build more corpora. How are you doing, for example, in the languages you translate, when you are, for example, in front of a concept you don't know how to translate?
Research on Google.
And it's Google.
You can go to the library too to do research, but it will take more time.
Yeah.
When you are working on your computer and you hit one term that you don't understand, you don't know the correct translation, you can search the word on Google to see if there is document where the word is used. And if this translation that you have found on DeepL, I don't know, Google Translation, is commonly used in other.
Which are your language pairs?
French, English, English to French, Spanish to French.
So you are among the lucky one because because we have the most digitalized languages. But for example, for African languages, we had a lady before for African, the same African. I mean, that's complicated, and that has a link with spoken languages. And I think I didn't mention something, but for Arabic, for example, you have a lot of dialects. How you deal with this? I gave before an example with a project we did for Apple, where to translate sentences from Siri. So it was very colloquial language. So, and it was completely related to local areas. We had some dialects from Syria. Sometimes we had sentences that didn't make sense at all because we didn't have the cultural references. So what we did, we had to call people living in these regions. So, and that was the way we managed to you need to be creative. I mean, if you don't have a Syrian guy in your team, and as a linguist, another Arabic translator will do the job, but you need to find an Arabic speaking person that is living there, that is able to provide them. And I had the same issue because we also did the same project for Arabic to French. We did it also for German to French. And my colleague Clara, she's living in Rouen, which is in the western part of France. And as I'm close to the German border, I've been exposed more than she was to German culture, so to German references also. And there are some expressions, some ways of making jokes, or that you can only understand them if you have been living there. For example, German language is losing a lot of examples with animals to make fun of things. And if you translate it literally, I mean, that doesn't make sense at all. And I say this because in the region where I grew up, we have a dialect which is a mix of German and French. And usually, you know, when I want people not to understand what I'm saying, I'm translating it literally into French, and I know only the people from this region will understand. We have, for example, a very colloquial way of saying things. We say literally, je bouffe un balai si ça c'est vrai. It means I will eat. How do you say when you clean a mop? No. When you clean, you know, with I don't even know the word in English. So I will eat. It's something made of wood to clean. You wouldn't understand it. What it means that there is no chance this will happen. So I'm ready to eat wood to make it happen. If you didn't grow up, or if you were not exposed to this, you will never understand it. So. And you have this for many cultural references to a movie. You know, people that like Game of Thrones. I mean, I don't know anything about Game of Thrones. You only understand each other among yourself. I would never be part of it because I don't have the same references. So that's the same.
Yes, we encountered this problem too. One time we had to translate the script of a TV show from French to English, and there was some expression that we use in street language. For example, I don't know, when we talk about food or about pub. In French, in Côte d'Ivoire, we say maki. But I don't know if in English we can translate it by the same way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you say pub or something, but it doesn't translate the
On top of that, you can.
shop bar or something.
It also language evolves. Also, I have a friend in Algeria. He lived in Algeria until he was 20. And he was using a word, he said, to say, my brother, my friend, he said shriki. And one day I told him, I never heard that word because I went more to Algeria